as we welcome in Jerry Glanville, legendary coach. Welcome back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, sir. I hope you're doing well.
And how is everything at Tuscaloosa, Alabama?
Well, we're still smiling, Coach, because of this national championship.
Well, I'm smiling, too, because my wife's Mercedes ML 350 was made there in your town. And so when I get in that car, every time I drive my wife's car, she lets me drive it twice a year, I think about this is right down from the University of Alabama, where this car was made. It was not made in Germany, although it is a Mercedes-Benz.
Well, we're certainly proud of that, and they mean a lot to our community here in Tuscaloosa. But, Coach, I want to spend a lot of time, and I'm sure you probably had a chance to watch the national championship game. What were your thoughts?
Well, in October, there's a guy in Atlanta named Bo Bach. He's the number one writer, number one guy. In October, Bo Bach asked me, who's the best quarterback in college football? Is it Baker Mayfield? Is it Josh at Wyoming? And I said, no, it's the second-team guy at Alabama.
No way.
I told him that on October 9th. I said, the best quarterback in college football is sitting the bench, and he's from Hawaii. And he goes, and he wrote the article. So now people think I know what I'm talking about. It's the first time I've ever been right.
Oh, come on. But now I had no clue that you had that opinion. How did you know about Tua Tagovailoa?
Because his high school coach was June Jones. And June Jones would send me all the film and say, what do you think? What do you think? What should we do with this guy? And I finally said, June Jones was my assistant at the Houston Oilers, along with a guy named Nick Saban. They were both my assistant coaches. And I said, well, we better call Nick and show him this film. You never know how people end up where they end up. June Jones was our quarterback coach, of course, an offensive guy for us for all those years when Nick was the secondary coach. That's how the kid ended up there.
Wow. Coach, that's incredible. I had no clue that you were going to share that story. Certainly he could spin the football for a youngster.
Well, I watched him. The actual pass that he threw for the winning touchdown pass, I saw him throw that actual pass in high school 15 times. That pass was invented by a guy named Mouse Davis, who gave it to June. And that pass, he didn't throw that pass in that game to win that game. I've seen him throw the exact same pass 15 times.
Wow. Well, Coach, I think I'm going to connect some dots here. We had Coach Ron Lee on from out in Hawaii last week, and one of his high school coaches, he was the coordinator there. And if I'm not mistaken, did he work with you when you were at the University of Hawaii?
Yes, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
The Lee brothers. There's two brothers. They're
right.
Unbelievable.
Cal and Ron.
The Lee brothers are legends on the island. In fact, anybody that could probably beat them if they ran for governor would be June. June Jones and the Lee brothers, they don't even know I was over there, and it's a good thing they don't. But we had a great time over there. We ended up beating everybody. Can you imagine? We beat everybody. And there was a guy named Shula that was the head coach at Alabama. We went in and opened up with Alabama. And lo and behold, Shula was a coach of the year before, and I think he got fired that next year. And we gave Alabama 21 yards the second half. How about that?
Wow. Incredible. So were you surprised that Nick Saban went to the backup quarterback in the second half?
You have to be secured in your job to make those decisions, or just say, I'm going to do the right thing. And I was so far off base, I thought the starting quarterback could win the game by running. At no time did I say passing. So even though I had the best quarterback in college football sitting the bench, I had your starting quarterback being able to run the ball well enough to win. Well, I think Nick did like I did. When he saw they weren't going to let that quarterback run, it was either make a trade or you're going to get beat. And takes courage. I appreciate Saban's courage in making the trade, swapping the quarterbacks, and when the quarterback came in, I knew right then, the minute he came in, that he would never not be the starting. He did not play a play yet. I said to the people around me, he will not be the starting. He'll be the starting quarterback the rest of his life. He will never come out of an Alabama game, because I knew what was coming.
So what do you think happens to the other guy?
The other guy transfers. He transfers to Brevard College in North Carolina. Goes on and goes for an undefeated season in Brevard, and gets drafted in the 6th round and becomes a backup at the Buffalo Bills. And luckily, he just missed going to the Cleveland Browns, which would have ruined his career.
Jerry Glanville, always a lot of humor into the conversation, but I love it. I love the attitude, man. I love the personality. Let me go back. What stands out when you go back to Nick Saban working with you in Houston? What stands out to you when you reflect on the days of Nick Saban under you as an assistant coach, a young pup in the business?
Well, it's funny how I got him. I let our secondary coach go, and then, of course, everybody in the league was looking for the secondary coach. And a guy named Tony Dungy was on a scouting trip. And Tony Dungy called me from East Lansing, Michigan. And he goes, I need to tell you, I'm watching Jerry Glanville coach bump and run on a college campus. And I said, what in the heck are you talking about? He goes, everything Jerry Glanville teaches in the bump and run, I am watching. I goes, who are you watching? He says, this guy's name is Nick Saban. I goes, and where is he? Said he's at Michigan State. Well, about 3 days later, I flew him in. Put him on an airplane, and he flew in from Detroit City all the way to Houston, Texas. And we interviewed him. And the way we teach bump and run, I don't know how we never worked together before that, but it was dead on. And I didn't spend much time with him saying, I want this technique and this technique. He was teaching the way we were teaching it.
Did you spot the ability at an early age that this guy was going to go on and do some pretty amazing stuff?
I had a great coach named Doug Shiley. Doug Shiley was my linebacker coach. And Doug would always remind me, he goes, now, and by the way, he brought a couple of things from Michigan State we were not doing. We were not playing any 4-3 over. And Nick brought the 4-3, and Nick would say, let me show you this, Jerry. We did this way and we did this way. So I would say Nick gave me the 4-3 over, the way that we had a free guy on the strong side guard. And by the way, we allowed that guy to hit any gap, do anything he wanted to do because he was surrounded by 2 down linemen. I don't want to get too confusing here for your listeners, but if they don't understand, tell them to shut the damn radio off. If you're surrounded by 2 down linemen, we allow you to go rip up underneath or go arm over. And if you get knocked out of there by making a pass rush move on a rundown, the other 2 down linemen got to smother the hole that you left open. He gave me that, which becomes a great 2nd and 7+ call. By the way, Georgia was in the wrong call. Georgia, you don't play the corner alone on the outside on 2nd and 7+, and they were 2nd and 14, which takes it on our what we call the holy grail for calling defenses. Takes you really, you're in a 3rd and 7 call. Georgia was not in a 3rd and 7 defense. Therefore, Georgia really did a bad coaching job right there. They should have been a 3rd and 7+, which means the corner will never be alone on the go route. Plus, he was playing bump and run and stuttered and missed it. If he's going to play alone, he has to play pogo. He has to back out, turn his hips, and take post and go and no other routes. He didn't do any of that. So it was a party made for heaven for Alabama fans. Georgia made a big error, and that quarterback threw that same thing in high school 15 times.
So do you think he spotted it when he came? It was the pre-read that allowed him to go, hey, I'm going here, and this is how I'm going to suck the safety over or freeze him? No,
the way that the play is called divide. The play is called divide, and he's dividing the safety to the wrong side. The play doesn't work without the eyes and the shoulders of the quarterback looking for the seam to the right side. Now, if the safety doesn't bite, I'm in for a shock for y'all now. Don't anybody fall out of their chairs. If the safety doesn't go, the ball's going on the seam, coming down the seam to the quarterback's right side. But the safety went. And that, by the way, we beat the Philadelphia Eagles 2 years in a row with the identical play. And guess when we threw the play against the Eagles? Mike Carson was the defensive coach of the Eagles. 2 years in a row, first play of the game, that was it. We scored both times. So the play that you saw Alabama score on, we scored on the Eagles 2 years in a row on the first play of the game. Because if the safety doesn't come with the seam, the ball is going there.
Wow, incredible. We're talking to Jerry Glanville, legendary coach. Is kind of
and who was coaching with me when we did that?
Would that have been Nick Saban?
That'd be him.
Wow, incredible. So as
did they hire a defensive coordinator over there yet?
Well, okay. I mean, this might be Coach Saban may have got this from you, but he told us he would give us a release when he wanted us to have a release.
Well, I was hoping you'd go in there and recommend me for the defensive coordinator's job. Get in there today and jump on him, will you?
Well, I could put in a good word for you, but Coach Saban, he doesn't listen to us media guys. I don't know if you ever listen to media guys, but he doesn't listen to us very well.
Some of my best friends, my lifetime friends, were people in the media.
Well, the guy in Houston I always think about is John McClain. What a legend he is.
Well, the problem with him, he's eating so many biscuits, he's going to run out of skin. You can only stretch your skin so far. And I bought him a talking scale. And I said, this scale will tell you what's wrong, John. And he got on it. And guess what the scale said?
What did he say?
Come back when you're alone.
Oh, my heavens. Oh, my heavens. Oh, I never heard this one. I mean, are those Ohio, when you're talking about being born in Ohio, growing up, playing in Michigan, I mean, is that Midwestern stuff that you're teaching us here?
Well, I don't know what it is because when I was working for Fox, I was rated the number 2 or 3 announcer in pro football. And they said, you're so good, we wish you could do New York. You can't do New York. And I said, well, why can't I do New York? And they said, you have too much of a Southern accent. And I looked at them and said, Southern accent? I didn't even live in South Detroit. I was on the east side. How could you possibly? Well, I married a girl from Douglasville, Georgia, and my son grew up in Texas. And they talked funny, and I guess a little rubbed off on me. And I said, and I can't do New York because you think, yes, no. I said, did you ever hear of a guy named Don Meredith? He did New York. So the next thing you know, CBS New York came over and outbid him and hired me away from him. I did New York for 7 years with CBS. I never did New York with Fox.
Jerry, we're talking about a conversation now, and I don't know if this is fair to the legendary Coach Paul Bear Bryant. When you look at Coach Paul Bear Bryant, you look at Nick Saban, they've tied each other with national titles. I never thought we'd have another coach that would be in the same conversation.
I interviewed with Coach Bryant. He called me up and asked me to come over and interview for to be his defensive coordinator. And I interviewed with Coach Bryant, and we were up on. He took me up on his forklift tower because they were in spring practice. And by the way, he hired a guy named Paul Crane instead of me. Remember a guy named Paul Crane?
Well, yes, sir. Sure.
Well, he interviewed me and Paul Crane, and I learned something from him. I always try to learn, and at that time, I was pretty much roughshod the people in spring ball. And he said, "Is there anything that surprises you, Coach, that you want to talk about?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of shocked. I see your number one defense is in sweats and helmets, and everybody else is practicing. Everything your number one defense does is in sweats. And he looked at me and he goes, son, them boys won 11 games for me last year, and them boys ain't going to get hurt unless we're playing for real. And I never forgot that.
Wow.
And guess what? I incorporated what he taught me. I got interviewed by two people that taught me a lesson. I got interviewed that same year by a guy named Woody Hayes. I was the coach at Georgia Tech, and Woody Hayes' defensive coordinator, Earl Bruce, took the job at Iowa State. So Woody brought me in. So I'm probably the only guy in America that talked to Woody and Bryant the same year about being the defensive coordinator on each side. And Woody said, anything here surprised? I goes, well, I'm surprised that your players got those long sideburns and they're wearing those platform shoes. And he said, how old are you, son? I goes, I guess I'm about 25 years old. He goes, I ain't losing no freaking player over the length of their hair. How about that in the 60s?
Wow.
And I so here's two guys that everybody thought were, they were this, they were that. I found out what they really were. They were smart. They were great coaches. And both people, by the way, you'll love this, both places offered me a job for $9,000 a year. Woody Hayes was the same price as Coach Bryant. I told Coach Bryant, I says, Coach, I'm making $10,000 over at Georgia Tech. And he looked at me and he goes, that may be true, son, but you ain't coaching at Alabama over there. And I stayed at Georgia Tech and stayed through a couple of coaching changes. And I asked Woody Hayes, and Woody Hayes says, now, if you come coach my defense, we're going to play monster to the field. We're going to have a kick over corner on the wide side. He's going to kick his heels over, and he doesn't have any short routes. Back on the backside, we're going to play man-to-man. We're going to have a boundary corner playing man, and the free safety is going to read the three and decide whether he's pushing. I goes, well, if you're going to do all that, Coach, that's not what I'm doing. I'm running a 4-2-5. He goes, I'm not hiring you to run your 4-2-5. I don't give a damn about your 4-2-5. I goes, well, then why are you hiring me? He said, because I want my players to work as hard and hit as hard as your players. He said, don't you worry about the scheme. I'll be telling you what we're going to run. How about that?
That's awesome. Awesome. But
I should write a book.
No.
I may write a book and put Nick in it. Did Nick put me in his book?
Well, okay, now that's another story. We got chewed out on this one, too, by Nick Saban. There was an unofficial biography of Nick Saban. He said he didn't endorse it. He said he'd write a book when he's finished, and he said he'll tell the real story rather than somebody else. So let's not – he hadn't put you in there, but I'm sure you're going to be covered at some point, I expect. But, let me ask you, to go back, though, 6 national titles. This guy's tied Coach Bryant with national titles. Is it fair to put him in that same conversation, though?
Well, you don't want my answer because everybody will be mad. Everybody will be screaming. If I answer you,
I want your answer because I want your answer. Okay,
here's me. Now, this is going to upset everybody because I love Coach Bryant. National championships, when Coach Bryant won them, you won them by voting. You didn't win them by playing. I don't even consider all the national championships people had because it was all. I can remember when Penn State legislated for votes to try to move up to win the national championship. Today's national championship means twice as much to me as having a bunch of frickin' newspaper writers decide who's the best team. Today, it's decided on the field. So it means a whole lot more to me. I was coaching during those frickin' voting days. Let me tell you that's the biggest joke. We played Notre Dame. Did you ever hear of Notre Dame?
Yes, sir,
Why do I call it Notre Dame? That's what Paul Bear Bryant called it. He never said Notre Dame in his life. He taught me to say Notre Dame. Got that from Paul. And they were number one in the nation. Got a guy named Joe Theismann playing the quarterback. And Who the heck was that coach then? The guy who came from Northwestern. Can't remember the coach. Oh, gosh. Ara Parseghian was the coach. Number one in the nation, averaging 42 points a game. And they're going to vote him number one in the nation. We took our pencil neck Georgia Tech team up there. They beat us 7-3. And we lost the game, but I knew when I'd gotten that bus to go home, we done took the national championship away from them because there was no playoffs. There was nobody playing for a championship. You were voted in as a champion. I don't care much about those voted in teams.
Okay. Well, that's why we reached out, because we know that you would give us an honest answer, and we try to reach back to the archives of helping us understand football from your perspective, and help us understand what Coach Nick Saban's been able to accomplish. I mean, and he's not finished yet. I mean, he's got obviously a hot shot quarterback and some wide receivers, pretty good coaching staff that he's got developed down here, and.
Plus, don't forget that little number 22, I think, was a freshman in the second half. Some running back.
Yes, sir. Najee Harris.
And you talk about the quarterback, and I like the quarterback and all that, but that little 22 is different also. Don't be throwing him under the bus.
How does a guy go from football to race cars?
Well, when you cover a kickoff, the hair on your arm better be standing up. And when you're coming out of turn 4 in second gear, waiting for a guy to say green, 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 the hair on your arm better be standing up. Because both situations, it's got to be an attitude. You got to have attitude, and you got to mash the accelerator down, whether you're covering the kickoff or whether you're getting ready to take that green flag. There ain't nothing like it. I drove 15 years. One trade a year.
Are you still in it? You're still in it?
Well, I sit on the war wagon sometimes with one of Ganassi's teams, Jamie McMurray. I sometimes get to monitor the gas mic. That's what we do on the war wagon. People have no idea.
What is it?
Jamie McMurray will come in there, and he's averaged 4.8 miles a gallon. And the crew chief will get on and say, Jamie, we got to average 4.1. You're not in the gas enough. Get in the gas or come park it.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. Now, just like football, hit him in the mouth or go in. Hit him in the mouth. Remember Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan to box me till I hit him in the mouth, and the plan is gone. It's the same in football. Hit him in the mouth. Now, I was proud of Georgia. Alabama was coming back, and Georgia hit that bomb up that right sideline. And that tells me that Georgia's going to be okay, too. Remember the bomb they hit up there? It was about 75 yards, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, it was.
Well, that showed me a lot about Georgia. I think Alabama beat the number 2 team in the country. I don't think they just beat another SEC team. I think they beat a top-notch team. So that was good.
Well, Coach, I just want to
now
say...
the Super Bowl. You're not asking me anything about the Super Bowl. You don't care about pro ball in Alabama.
Well, we're just no college football nuts down here. I mean,
I know.
We're pulling for Bill Belichick because of Nick Saban.
Well, Bill Belichick was my assistant, in Detroit. And so I always follow anybody that's been with me that's in the game, any coaches. And Belichick was my assistant special teams coach at Detroit. And
kind of has to make you feel proud,
Pardon?
right? It has to make you feel proud that you got all these legendary coaches that worked under you.
No, I'm not. You know why?
Why?
After they all left, everybody found out I couldn't coach without them.
I didn't know you were going there. But, hey, Coach, listen, it's been an absolute honor.
Hey, go back to what you just said. At one time, I had 17 coordinators in the National Football League that were with me. 17.
Amazing. Wow.